To attune is to tap in. It's as if God is a channel that's always broadcasting, always present, always available. And our opportunity is to channel and tune into that so that we can become a channel for it. I had the opportunity to serve on a committee. It was the founding committee for a Soul Healing, Peace, and Enlightenment Center. And Dr. Rocco Errico is one of the committee members. And so I had an opportunity to spend some time with Dr. Rocco Errico and another amazing individual by the name of Sri Rani Ji. If any of you are familiar with the Diksha oneness blessing that came from India to the United States, it's a powerful oneness blessing. Well, Sri Rani Ji is the lady that brought this from India to the United States. And when I met her, she's this little short woman from India who immediately kind of made me feel like a Mother Teresa presence, with her beautiful dress and a presence that when she comes into the room, you literally can feel her presence. Well, one particular day I was having lunch with Sri Rani, and a group of people came in and noticed that she was there, and they walked up to our table, and one individual said, "Sri Rani, I just wanted to tell you that I so admire, you are such a presence of peace. Every time I come into your presence, I immediately melt into peace." And Sri Rani looked at her, and with her wisdom, she said, "My dear, what you feel is the divine presence of peace. Perhaps it is flowing through me, and yet it is available for you also." I thought, wow. That is to tune in, to attune. So that when we see an individual, I may say, "Julie, you are just this beautiful individual." And maybe it would be more accurate to say, you are an individual that radiates the divine presence of beauty. Maybe, Nellie, you are an individual that radiates the divine presence of wisdom. Or maybe you are an individual that radiates the divine presence of peace. And to remember that it is available equally to all of us. And so our goal is to attune and to allow that presence to come through us to such a degree that when individuals see us, they don't even see us so much as the divine presence that we are reflecting. We ask and we attune. Again, from Life of Prayer, prayer heightens the individual conscious connection with God mind, and therefore brings us into direct contact with the eternal attributes of God. I attune to all that is together. I attune to all that is. The third pillar is to allow. Allow requires action on our part. Even if we stand in a state of inaction, that's an action, we're being inactive. Allowing is that other part of making the completion from asking and receiving, seeking and finding, is for us to allow. One Unity writer says, prayer is lifting your self-identification to a higher awareness. You become aware that you are an expression of God, and that God is a deeper dimension of yourself, expressing itself as you. And life becomes better not because we have pleased God and that God has finally decided to bless us, but rather because we've brought forth the potential for something better. Allowing is realizing, as Reverend Sherry read earlier today, that it's not about separating God in our regular life. As a matter of fact, it's about bridging any perception of that separation and seeing God in all things. Many years ago when I was working for a children's toy company, and I started at an entry level and I climbed sort of up the corporate ladder of that company. And I had just received a promotion. I was a regional sales director it was Brio, a children's toy company. And right about that time, I was doing a lot of my own prayer work, and I met a friend who was Hindu, and she gave me this little statue of Ganesh. Now, does anyone know who Ganesh is? You've probably seen it. It's the little elephant. And Ganesh is, in the Hindu tradition, it appears that there are many deities, and yet it's not that way. There are many God representations which represent attributes of the One. So Ganesh is believed to be a representation of God's capacity to remove obstacles. So when I met this individual and she gave me this little elephant, I became fascinated and started, praying to really tune in and allow any obstacles in my life to be moved. Now, I do not recommend praying that, because what happens is you get a lot of obstacles in your life. It's like the scripture says, much tribulation worketh patience. Well, many obstacles will bring forth your Ganesh energy. Well, I learned, and so I prayed. I was asking to really recognize God in my life, overcoming obstacles. So, crazy things started happening. And one thing that happened, as I said, I was a regional sales manager for a company, so part of what I did, I represented the company from a corporate level, and I went out to the field and I would approve new stores. I could open and close new stores, or I had to do the stuff that wasn't so fun. If somebody wasn't following the guidelines, I had to stop our product. They could not carry our product. So I had, all of a sudden, a lot of this sticky, tough stuff started coming up, and I had one that got really nasty. So nasty, in fact, that the individual called me and said, I know where you're going to be next weekend, and I'm going to come and make a huge scene. She just really threatened me, and it was quite scary. And I was just thinking, this is going to be embarrassing, this is terrible, what is happening here? Well, in my prayer life at that particular time, I really got still enough to realize the obstacle perhaps was in me, that I was believing that I had to take care of everything myself. And so with this particular situation, it got into a ridiculous point of an individual threatening me. I was going to go to an event, supposedly where I was in a store, and make a scene. So I got really still and said, okay, whatever obstacle in me is restricting me from allowing the presence of God, the presence of wisdom, the presence of confidence, of whatever I need to come through, I just lay it all down. I want it to be removed, and I'm going to trust. And so without trying to defend or me worrying about how it was going to be straightened out, I finally stayed with it until I got rid of the obstacle inside of me. And so this weekend I went to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, to a big event that had been published. I was the regional rep coming in and doing an all-day event for children in this store. I pulled up in the parking lot and I was unloading my car, and just as I got to the back and was unloading my boxes, a car pulled in right beside me. So it's me and one other car in the parking lot. So I'm getting a little nervous now, thinking, oh Lord, this woman's going to beat me up. This is not what I was thinking would happen. A lady gets out of her car and she comes around and she said, are you Darlene Strickland, the representative? I said, yes, I am. And she said, good, I heard you were going to be here. As she continued to talk, I realized, oh, this wasn't what I thought at all. She said, I'm planning to open a toy store. Can I observe you all day? And I said, sure. And then her husband got out of the car on the other side, and she said, and I hope you don't mind, but my husband just got off work and he'd like to stay here as well. And I said, sure. This 6-foot highway patrolman in uniform got out of the car. I am not kidding. So, at the event, all day long, I had a 6-foot highway patrolman standing beside me. The universe taught me that when obstacles and things come up in our life, we are allowing a healing to take place in ways that we may have never imagined. Someone shared with me last week when they heard that we're having a prayer that this Tuesday, we're going to pray at noon, just 1 minute. This individual shared with me last week, she said, I started 2 years ago. I made the commitment that at noon every day I would sit in silence for 5 minutes. That was part of my prayer life. And she said, and I've been doing this for 2 years, and for 2 years I've been praying because there's one woman in my office that I don't like her and she does not like me, and it's just been ugly between us. And I've prayed and I prayed and I prayed and nothing worked. And she said, so one day, it was like a minute before noon, I got out of my chair and went to close my office door, and there's the woman standing there. And she said, the woman said, I need for you to come with me so we can do so and so. She said, I thought inside, I'm going to tell the truth. She said, no, I can't. I can be there in 5 minutes, but I need to do something. And she said the lady kind of pushed her head inside and said, right, you're really doing something.